Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I have wanted to put out this, I guess it's live, specifically because some of you have been asking me about the intent of the survey that we put out on implant illness. And I'll start off by just giving a brief background of who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I am Sharon Zurita. I am an environmental engineer, and I'm also a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and most importantly, a fellow implant illness warrior. So my journey began about 4 years ago, over 4 years ago now, when I was implanted with phase 6 mesh, which is a hybrid mesh that caused severe systemic inflammation in the body and completely left me bedbound. Some of you have heard my story and some of you haven't. You can always go back and listen to some of our podcasts. Our most recent one, very informative. I'd highly suggest you go back and listen to it with Dr. Sharon Tofi, who addresses mesh implant illness. She addresses when mesh is required or should be used and when or what instances mesh can be an alternate. And then there could be a pure tissue-based repair. So definitely go back and listen to that. Dr. Tofi brings a wealth of information out. And that brings me back to the point of the survey here. So we look at symptoms commonly encountered during implant illness. They, I guess, formally known as Asia syndrome or foreign body reaction. So we look at all of the symptoms and we see similarities between the symptoms we implant illness warriors exhibit as the autoimmune community, as well as just a multitude of conditions, even metabolic syndrome. There's a lot of shared symptoms, and the primary ones that we're seeing in our survey happen to be brain fog, fatigue, nausea, gastrointestinal issues, of course, the abdominal pain. This could be something deep rooted, or it could be due to the adhesions from the multiple surgeries. So that's one of the main components, is looking at the symptoms that people are experiencing. Also looking at the general demographics. Now, we don't ask for any identifying information. The information is mostly age, employment status, and things along the line of functionality, as well as quality of life. And these are numerical. So you can go in and take a look at the survey. Please complete it if you've experienced implant illness, or forward it along to other people who may have had implants, whether they're exhibiting direct correlation with the time of surgery and when symptoms began. This is very new territory. It's uncharted because we're seeing people are developing these conditions, some of them immediately, like myself, immediately from the day of surgery, and some people 2 and 3 years after. It could be something that's developed over time. And we look at it similar to the histamine bucket. It's where the body can only take so many toxins before there's imbalances that are going to break the chain of command, in essence. So it disrupts our digestion, it disrupts our immune function, it disrupts hormone production, which will drive all kinds of symptoms. So definitely looking at all the symptoms that we find, and we're also reviewing holistic practices that have been proven to be beneficial. So some of those things can be physical therapy. If you find the proper physical therapy, someone who understands postural alignment issues and mobility constraints. It could also be chiropractic care. It can be what we do at my practice, functional diagnostic nutrition, where we look at a set of specific functional labs that tell us the hidden stressors in the body. So that includes the hormone system, immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system, and we even look into oxidative stress or DNA damage type of things, where maybe it's not diagnosed yet, but we see things when they're starting to deviate from optimal ranges, not disease state prior to that. So that might be the reason why a lot of you have gone and sought help. Certain people and many people actually in the survey have expressed that they've seen multiple doctors, more than 5, more than 10, more than 20. I've even seen some responses where they have seen close to 100 doctors. Now, it's not very clear if it was 100 different doctors or just 100 doctor visits. So we'll have to have clarification on that. And that will come later on in the second part of our survey. But for now, we're gathering the data for the, again, holistic practices that are beneficial. We're looking at symptoms that are being exhibited. We're looking at time in which those symptoms developed. And we're also looking at lifestyle practices that are currently happening. So even things such as um, organic foods or filtering your water supply and things like that. So please, it's very important that you or whoever you know has been impacted by implant illness to contribute to the research, because it takes all of you, it takes your voices to really push it out to the medical community and help those people who are being gaslit, because we need the voices, we need to be known. So a couple other things that I just wanted to point out. I did come across a diagnostic testing that has to be ordered by a physician. Unfortunately, I cannot order it. Functional diagnostic nutrition practitioners cannot order it, but a licensed practitioner has to order it. But it's called MicroGen DX. And I think this one is going to be very useful for anyone who is considering an explant, because it's a PCR test and it can determine the antibiotic resistance as well as bacterial colonization. And from there, you can kind of customize a treatment protocol, and your medical practitioner may be able to better provide pharmaceutical care. And you can also go with a healthcare practitioner that can support you holistically as well and help you develop protocols that are going to address your specific scenario. So our survey, again, the why is because I was personally impacted, and I have to admit that before I was impacted, I was naive to it. I didn't know what implant illness was. I didn't know the amount of chronic pain that it can cause and the multitude of symptoms that it could cause. Further diagnoses received included dysautonomia, which, with the umbrella term for POTS, MCAS, orthostatic hypotension, and all of these things can dramatically change the quality of life that the person now has. And our survey is going to be able to portray that information. So we'll be developing infographics to share with everyone. We're also working collaboratively with advocacy groups, universities, and medical practitioners who want to participate in this type of research. We are open to sharing the data that we collect. Again, non-identifying data. So I don't want anyone to have any hesitancy. You can click on the link directly to participate. There is a link on our Instagram profile. If you just click on the bio, you'll see the link directly to the survey. Also on our website, www.functionallyenlightened.com, you can access the survey that way. And you can also find out more about our point approach. So the point approach is what we use to basically address those hidden stressors that I mentioned earlier. And so our point approach, POINT, P for proper nutrition. We look at what's being consumed on a daily basis. We look at sensitivities, food sensitivities. We also look at metabolic typing, addressing like the macronutrient ratio that is appropriate for each individual person. The O in point is for optimizing movement. A lot of the times, we've received a surgery, multiple surgeries. And so there comes a point where we have some restrictions, and a lot of practitioners may not be in the know of how we can optimize our movement without injuring ourselves or without causing more discomfort. Sometimes we feel the discomfort, and that makes us more hesitant to do the proper movement that we're supposed to be doing to keep the body in motion, to keep the lymph flow moving, to help our detoxification processes. Movement is life. I've heard that repeatedly, even in some of the podcasts that I've interviewed other practitioners. Movement is critical. So we need to find ways to optimize movement for each person. I in point is to identify stressors. Now that includes environmental stressors, the mental and emotional stressors. So all of these play a role in our cortisol response. And my expertise in environmental engineering dives deeply into the environmental toxins that are in our households, in our workplaces, and things that are in our control that we can ultimately eliminate or reduce to a more manageable amount, so that our bodies are capable of detoxing, of pushing these things out, and so they can process the nutritional components and just have the proper ratios in our body in general. So the N in point is for nurturing sleep. A lot of people think that 5 or 6 hours of sleep is good enough, or they even think 7 or 8 hours. And it's not just the quantity, it's the quality of sleep. So I go into this deeply with people. We talk about things from eliminating blue light in the evening hours and getting first morning light. And, it goes beyond just sleep time. It's quality of sleep and creating a conducive environment to getting that best sleep. And then the T in our point protocol or our point approach is the targeted therapy. So this is where those foundational labs come into play. So very essential because we don't just want to run one lab and guess on everything else. The labs that we use speak together very well, and they get us a good look at all of those systems, those hidden stressors, and how they play together in terms of hormone production and the digestive system function, whether we have gut dysbiosis, bacterial overgrowth, if we have leaky gut, which is a term that you probably have heard of. So those kinds of things. And the hormonal balance is key. Like a lot of the blood serums that we get in traditional practice only gives us that snapshot one point in time, but the hormonal panels that we look at is a progression over the course of the day, and in some cases it's a more of a cycle mapping for females. But all of those things help us to really make that clinical correlation with the client's personal symptoms. So the call to action that I am putting out to you all primarily is to participate in the survey if you have been impacted by implant illness, or again, forward it along to anyone that you know who may have been impacted. Very critical to get the data. There's my survey, our survey here at Functionally Enlightened that we're going to try to get to peer-reviewed journals. We're sharing it again. Anyone who wants to take on our data and merge it with whatever they've been working on, we're completely open with that. And so visit our website at functionallyenlightened.com or our social media platforms at Functionally Enlightened as well to have access to those surveys. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us by email at info@functionallyenlightened.com. That's one way to reach us. Through our website also, you can send in an email through there. Also, for anyone who's interested in the point approach and seeing if that might be something to benefit them, then we offer a 30-minute free consultation to discuss how point approach can be tailored to their specific healing journey. So that can be found again on our website or on our Instagram page. You can just click the link and find it an optimal time for you to dedicate at least 30 minutes to the call, because we do really want to understand what the primary complaints are and if we can actually be a good fit together. That's offered to you. Again, visit our website or our social media. So I want to thank you for listening, for taking the time out. I know it's difficult in any scenario, it's difficult, whether you have chronic illness or not. But for my chronic illness warriors, I know how difficult it is to have that severe brain fog or to have that pain and to have all of these myriad of symptoms, the nausea, and all of that just conflicts with the ability to listen to information such as this. So I do thank you for hanging in there with me. And we will be putting out the data as we get it. And the more participation we get, the more statistically significant it's going to be. So just please participate. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much, everyone. And I'm wishing you a great weekend and many blessings. Take care.